it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com here with some exciting news about the future of Market Monday and the rogue market in general, and even just the topics of speculation or finance on this particular channel. I've stated in the past that I want to go over to more high production videos. I'm not going to 100% guarantee that that's going to be the case for Market Monday. A lot of times I just like to take a topic with Market Monday and just go with it, just point and shoot and explore. And many of you enjoy it, some of you do not, and are craving for the more high production videos that I used to put out. If you've been a fan of the channel for quite some time, you may know that I used to do a video series called The Rogue Market, which is more of a PowerPoint presentation and kind of an analysis or breakdown of specific cards that I'm investing in and my reasoning of why. And I want to get back to that. So I don't know if this is going to be with Market Monday or just a separate video throughout the week. I'm thinking about exploring the topic on Market Monday and then creating a high production video out of the topics we explored on Market Monday. If that's something that you're interested in, let me know. If you'd rather just have the high production video where I've basically, crossed my T's, dotted my I's, and created something rather than just the ramblings that are very typical of Market Monday, let me know in the comment section as well. But for this particular video, I'm going to basically introduce the Rogue Market Breakdown, which is going to be a presentation on a specific card that I am targeting or not targeting. We're just going to break down a card. This week, for example, we're going to be talking about the rotation, strategies for standard rotating cards, and where are the good times to pick them up. We're just going to break down card by card most cards that are used right now in the, or not necessarily used, just contained in the 4 standard sets that are going to be rotating out, being Oath the Gatewatch, Battle for Zendikar, Eldritch Moon, and Shadows over Innistrad. So first of all, let me introduce you to this. It is going to be, you're seeing this on your screen here. This is the Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger Rogue Market Breakdown. So first of all, let me get some definitions. The first category that we have is the supply and demand variables. So this is, where is this card currently, where is the demand for this card, and what kind of pressure does demand have on the supply? So first off, we're going to evaluate the supply. And so this is broken down in set and rarity, and if it's been reprinted or was like a promo. So for this case, we'll just go through Ulamog. Ulamog's set and rarity is going to be a mythic 1, meaning that it was a mythic in a first printed set. And so this is going to give it a neutral set rarity rating. Neutral ratings are going to be either rare 2s, so a rare printed out of a second set, or a mythic printed out of a first set. A mythic printed out of a second set is going to get a high on that marking, or positive actually, a positive on that marking, and a rare printed out of a set 1 is going to get a negative rating, or it puts a negative rating on the demand of that card, as there's plenty of them, or on the supply category of that, as there's plenty of them out there. So also something that could have an effect on the set rarity value is going to be if it was a promo, like a buy a box promo, or an F&M promo, for example, or a launch day promo. All these are going to factor into that rating. The next is the 2 categories that have demand, which is eternal demand, and I put those in 2 categories. You can think of modern, we could put legacy in that as well, but legacy and vintage do not have nearly the demand that modern does, and also the other one would be commander. So let's just define modern. What I have defined modern is non-existent, which means that there are no modern decks that currently play the card. So you can scour the decks, and then maybe even it's a standard base card that doesn't see any play in modern. So it's going to have a non-existent marking there. Then there is very low. Very low, it means that it has seen play in a modern deck, but that's few and far between. Low is that it has found its place in modern, but it's either in a very obscure deck, or as a 4 of, or 3 or 4 of, or is in modern as in a modern deck as a 1 to 2 of, or a sideboard. Medium would be it's in 2 to 3, possibly even 4 decks, but in only 1 deck. So it's got medium pressure from that 1 deck. And high would be 4 or more in a very, very popular deck, or is contained as a 2 of in multiple different decks. A very, very popular sideboard would be in this high definition. And then we have very high, which this is going to be a card that there's going to be few decks that I think that would be in the very high rating. Maybe the Collective Brutality would hit this, as it sees play in a ton of different modern decks, but it's going to be very, very rare that a card ever hits this very high rating for the modern demand. The next category being Commander. Commander, I've got it broken down in this. Very low is going to be it's going to be below 1,000 cards. So 1,000 cards played throughout the deck is going to be where I'm going to consider the very low. Low is between 1,000 and 2,500 registered decks. Of course, low demand is something I think actually lower that between that mark is actually pretty decent for Commander with these newer sets, because the more of these cards that are going, or the more Commander decks that are going to come out is going to increase that. Then we have medium, which is between 2,500 and 5,000 registered decks. High, between 5,000 and 7,500 decks. And very high, which is 7,500 decks and above. And that's where I've broken down the demand from Commander. The next big evaluation bracket is going to be other factors. So we're going to look at other factors that could either make this a very risky spec or a very, very positive spec. So the first category is replaceability. Replaceability, I like to define, is a card that could be printed that could completely replace this card and make it completely obsolete. We see this in Modern. One of my big examples is Tidebinder Mage being replaced by Harbinger of the Tides. So I spec'd all in on Tidebinder Mage, and I got killed on that spec because Harbinger is just a better overall slot for that. So I'm going to try to do my best analysis on whether or not the card is easily replaceable. If it isn't, if it's like pretty powerful and unique, and it's not going to have, it's going to have a hard time to be replaced in a particular deck. I think that that's a Collective Brutality is a perfect one here. I think it's be very, very tough to print a card that can replace what Collective Brutality does. I don't know, that has probably a medium rating, for example. Then we're going to look at the reprintability. So the reprintability factors are, is how unique is the name? Does it have a very set specific? So take Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger, for example. The Eldrazi is considered dead, but we've seen these reprinted cards like this and other, like from the Vaults type places, because it's a very popular card there, can be thrown in the Commander deck. There is ways that this card can be reprinted. What makes it something very, very difficult to reprint is if it has a very set specific mechanic. So think flip cards here, like the Werewolf flip cards from Innistrad, or the Phyrexian Mana Symbol, for example. Those are insanely hard cards to reprint because they were set specific, so they just can't throw them even in a Masters format, because Masters formats need to have, I think they say, what, at least 5 others? I can't remember what Marrow put, 3 to 5, I believe, other instances of that mechanic before they'll just throw it in a set. And then it's nearly impossible to reprint them in standard sets if it has a very set specific mechanic. So the reprintability is going to have it's going to have a rating, probably low, medium, high there, to see if this card could be reprinted. I mean, what's the risk for the reprintability? And then unique / the niche factor of the card. This one I like to show for the Rite of Passage, for example. Had a very, very unique ability, and it just needs a card to break it, and then it could be go from a card that doesn't see any play. We all know the 50-cent card all the way up to the $10 mark that a lot of these cards spike. This happens in Commander very often. Just look at any of these cards, like Door of Destinies being broken with a specific the Dragon Commander, or like I said, the Rite of Passage with the Hanger, or the Walking Ballista was a good one. We're seeing a lot of cards out of the Wizards decks and even out of the Cats deck that just because they have that keyword of Wizards, all of a sudden they become playable in a very, very popular deck, and the price just completely spikes. So we're going to do our best at analyzing the uniqueness and niche factor of the card. Last off, we're going to look at its price. We're going to analyze the price. And how we're going to do this is we're going to look at the current price. Does the current price reflect kind of the risk and supply demand models that we've presented beforehand? I think a good current price for a card that is rotating is that Mythics, even unplayable, like Mythics with a low rating with all these, should be probably lower than $3 right now. Something that does have a moderate would be around 5, and something that even has a pretty good rating should be around $10 at the moment with rotating cards. You can see that Ulamog and Gideon are both very, very low at this moment, and that is just because even though they do have some eternal playability, they were very, very highly played cards that are rotating. So we're going to try to do our best analysis of where the current price is compared to where it should be, and we're going to come up with a target price. Where should you target this, if you should target it all? What makes sense for where it's going to bottom out? A lot of these specific topics for this one with the rotating means that it will have about a year, 6 months to a year, where it's going to be at its bottom before the supply will, or the demand will start to outstretch the supply and the card will go up in value. Last but not least, we are going to have our growth rate. Putting all these factors together, where do we see this card growing? I mean, there's some cards that just take forever to go up in value, and a lot of people will be shied away from that because it's going to be between 3, 4, 5, 6 years to get your money back, or really make a good return on investment. Others start to outstretch pretty quickly, and I'm going to try to give my best analysis of where that growth rate is. And then we're going to put all of this together and give it a rogue market rating. And this will just be your typical A, B, C, and D. So A is, of course, something you should definitely be investing in. B is something that has some attached risk to it. Maybe it's just it has a lot of supply out there. It's something that, of course, isn't quite an A. There's better things out there to invest in, but it's a very, very decent investment. C is something that is pretty average. This is a card that probably will go up. It's probably a decent investment, but there are absolutely better targets out there that have, proven themselves to be either staples in Modern or Commander, for example, and have a lot less risk attached to them. C's, however, will have a lot of high risk, high reward cards in them, and I don't think that they should be ignored. D is probably something that is very, very high risk. A lot of times it's very high risk and probably potential not very high reward. So even if it does see play, it's going to be very, very tough for the demand to outstretch the supply, or very, very tough for it to kind of stay sticky enough in the format. F is an overall failure. These are cards you should avoid. These are cards that have a very, very high likelihood of reprintability, or just will never. There's just a card out there that it does a better job of doing what it does at the moment. So that's kind of my analysis, and that's where we'll go with this particular model. So let me just introduce this model for you. So we're going to look at 2 cards from Battle for Zendikar, and that will probably be the first set that I do analysis on, is Battle for Zendikar. So you can be looking for that probably on Monday. We'll look at Battle for Zendikar and go through most of the rares and mythics, and maybe some commons and uncommons. So Ulamog, the Ceaseless Hunger. All right, so let's just go down the supply-demand variables. Modern, I would give Ulamog, the Ceaseless Hunger a low, maybe in between a low and medium rating. It currently sees play in Eldrazi Tron, is usually a 1 of, sometimes another 1 in the sideboard. They don't want a lot of these, as 10 mana is even difficult for Eldrazi Tron to get to. It does, however, see play is usually between a 1 to 2 to even 3 in the regular Tron, either white-green Tron or red-green Tron or even black-green Tron, that is becoming more and more popular. So it has a low rating, I'd say, in a very, very popular deck of Eldrazi Tron, and a medium rating in another semi-popular, sometimes Tron, when control is big, gets gets more popular. But when control is not, then in aggro, and a lot of these combo decks are very, very prevalent, then Tron falls out of favor. Right now, I'd say Tron is not really in favor. Eldrazi Tron is very in favor, so it would get a rating somewhere between the low and medium rating for Modern. Commander, however, Commander, this is in over 7,500 decks currently registered. So this Ulamog has a rating of very high. Ulamog is used in popular commanders such as Animar, Soul of Elements, Rakdos, Lord of Riots, Kozilek the Great Distortion, and Jorah of the Gitchu. These have all proven themselves to be extremely popular commanders throughout the time since they've been reprinted, and more players continue to build these particular ramp-based strategies. So for those reasons, I would put Ulamog in the commander category as I would even say very high or extremely high, as it solidified itself as a commander favorite and a commander staple. So now let's look at the set rarity value. Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger is a mythic 1, and I've given that a neutral value, meaning that this is our baseline. This is a very typical card that is going to have demand, but not more demand than a rare out of a set 2. So set 2 rares and mythic 1s I put on the same rating. So that it doesn't take away from anything else. It doesn't get a negative factor and it doesn't get a positive factor. Next up, we're going to evaluate the other factors. So replaceability. Is Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger replaceable? It has this ability. It has a cast trigger, which is tough to do on a lot of cards. It's also 10 mana for a 10/10 that has a very effective attack trigger. So I don't think that Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger is replaceable. Maybe in the very distant future, but if there is a card like that is another 10 mana or maybe an 8 mana or something like that, it's got to have a very overwhelming ability. It's going to be tough to print that in standard, so for it to be put into modern, that's going to take a lot of work. And if it is printed outside of a standard base set, Commander will just probably put it in addition to Ulamog. Something else in the deck will get cut before Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger gets cut. So replaceability, I would put no. It's not replaceable. So it doesn't get a ding for replaceability. It gets a very positive rating for replaceability. Reprintability. Reprintability, I would say that it probably has about a neutral. It's not likely, but it's very likely in Expedition form, in From the Vaults form, in these higher end products, dual deck type stuff. No, I don't think that those sort of products, the kind of lower end products, it's not reprintable in. Master sets, it's extremely likely that Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger will be reprinted the next time a modern Masters set comes around that Battle for Zendikar is eligible. So I'd say the reprintability rating is pretty neutral here too. It's inevitable that this does get reprinted, but how much of will the reprint actually affect the supply demand chain? And again, I would say that this is your basic idea of a neutral value here. Go on to uniqueness and niche. It is very unique and has a very niche ability, but usually what this rating looks for is cards that don't really see play at the moment. This has a heavy play in standard. It was played at 4 of in an Aether X Marvel. It's a very known card. So this category is usually for unknown, obscure. This card doesn't see play at the moment, hasn't seen play before. It just takes a card printed that this card could then go bonkers and see a lot of play. Ulamog does not fit that definition. It's in a very established archetypes. It's a very known card. And so again, it does not get a plus for the uniqueness and niche. However, it doesn't get like any sort of, I guess this would be partially in the replaceability category. There's not even another card that just is going to be more unique or have more of a niche that overtakes the Ulamog of the Ceaseless Hunger. So next up, let's look at the current price. The current price for Ulamog is around, if we're looking, it's around about $12 and steadily going down. It appears it has been going down about a couple cents a day for the past while. So that has been eating away at its price tag, mostly because it was in a 4 of in a very popular deck, Aetherworks Marvel. It got a little bit of a resurgence in the red-green ramp, the Hour of Promise ramp deck, but then people started figuring out that there's better things to try to hit, like world breakers, and went down to a 1-up. So a lot of those factors, it's been going down for that reason. However, if you look at its lowest price ever was $12. When Ulamog first came onto the scene in Standard, it didn't see a lot of play. It took a while for Ulamog to actually get a deck, and I think it was a red-green ramp deck, which was the first one when Oath of the Gatewatch came out, and Chandra and a few other good ramp spells, World Breaker as one, were printed, and then this card became a staple in that. It then went down again when Kaladesh, when Shadows and Eldritch Moon came out, and Kaladesh, because ramp just wasn't a viable strategy. And it wasn't until Marvel decks after the Emrakul ban that it really solidified itself in the Aetherworks Marvel strategy. And so it then had another spike and went back up. But I think that this has a lot of, a lot more to go. I would say between the $8, $9, or $10 range is going to be its bottom price. So our target price is going to be lower than that, because our target price always wants to be lower than the market price of the card. These are cards that are rotating. You can find deals on this. So my current evaluation for Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger would be to target it at, I would say, the $5 mark. $5 probably a very, very good, $5 to $6. You're going to make it'll start to go back up in the real market value price, meaning that you will be able to sell it for its real market price within a few months after that. And so the deals will be outstretched quickly. The market price won't start to get outstretched for about 6 months to a year, and then we'll start to see some growth in Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger. And so I have a growth rating for this to be quite moderate. I think that this is going to start after it hits its bottom, after it hits its true bottom, and the deals are gone. It's going to start having very good market growth. So within 2 years, you should easily be able to make your investment back, and it will start to make profit after that. And this is including after the fees. So I think that Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger, when you put all these ratings together, is going to get a rogue market rating of, I would say, a B+ to an A-. That's what I'm going to go for Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger. So it's something you should be targeting. You should be looking for those deals in the $5 to $6 range. And I would not be against this to even putting a little more, maybe 7 to 8, being more aggressive with this particular card. It has all of the makings for a very, very smart investment. It's not, I don't think that this will be reprinted until Battle for Zendikar is eligible for a Masters set. All right, so the next one I'm going to be looking at is another mythic out of Battle for Zendikar, which is Drana, Liberator of Malakir. So Drana, Liberator of Malakir, has a, let's go to the supply-demand variables. First off is Modern. Modern, I give this a strike. This does not see any current Modern play. Has it seen play before? Yes. There have been a few historical decks that have had this in a Modern decks. I've seen it in a mono-black Devotion deck, and I've also seen it in kind of a red-black aggro strategy. Both of them, though, quickly found out that it's just a liability. It's a card that dies to bolt very easily. You know, all the usual suspects. It's very easy to kill the card. And there's better things to be doing at 3 mana. So I'm going to put this between a strike and a very low marking for Modern, as the demand for Modern is not going to really have any impact on the Drana. Maybe if well, I guess we'll get to this when we get uniqueness and niche. But if a Vampire's tribal deck somehow, even like an Aether Vial Vampire tribal deck somehow made a Modern deck, possibly it could go in this. But it's going to take a lot of factors to make this playable. Modern, there are just so many better cards at the 3-drop slot that just outshine the Drana. Commander, however, it didn't have a lot of playability until the Commander tribal deck came out, and that's where we're starting to see a resurgence in the price of the Drana Liberator of Malakir. So you can see it's had a little bit of a bump from its low at $3.50 and is back up to the $4.25. And this is mainly because the new Commander pressure, the demand from Commander in the Vampire Tribal deck. So currently, Drana is a commander herself, so there's some pressure from Drana, and it is seen in 3,969 decks. Most popular in Marquesa, General Tazri, so a ally tribal deck, Olivia Voldaren, and now Edgar Markov. It's also popular in Olivia, Mobilized for War, Alesha, Who Smiles at Death, who's a very, very popular commander, and Atraxa has actually even included this in the list. So the 3,969 with a going up valuation would put it in the medium, but I'm actually going to bump this up into high demand because I think that Edgar Markov is going to go crazy with the amount of lists that the Drana Liberator of Malakir is going to go into. So it does get a high demand for the commander. Not quite very high like Ulamog, but definitely is one of the premier cards from the set with commander pressure. Next up, let's look at the other factors for the Liberator of Malakir. So we have the replaceability. Is this card replaceable? Well, absolutely in Modern. It can easily be outclassed and outshined. If it does find a place, it probably won't have a very solidified place that is always going to be target for being replaced with a better card. So very replaceable in Modern. In Commander, no. In those particular decks, I think that it is, especially on Marquesa, it's if a better card that comes out for putting +1/+1 counters, there could be, but this is a good card for putting +1/+1 counters on creatures in Marquesa. In the Vampire Tribal decks, it's going to be very, very tough to throw this one out because a lot of those are pretty aggressive, and it's a great way to put +1/+1 counters on it. Same thing with allies. It's going to do a great job of first striking in some damage and then putting +1/+1 counters on the rest of your... Most of the commander decks that this card is seeing play in have a very aggressive factor to them, and the new Markov deck is no different here. So I don't think it's very replaceable in the commander aspect. So and that's where the demand is seeing play. So I'm not going to say that it's necessarily replaceable. Is it reprintable? Allies are tough to reprint. They're very tough to reprint. But box sets, I think it's easy for this card to be reprinted. So say we get a Vampires versus Merfolk deck come out, because I guess we have Merfolk versus Goblins, but let's say Vampires versus Rogues or Vampires versus Pirates as another dual deck that comes out for the next set that comes out. Could this card be in it? Absolutely. It is a very, very easy card at the price point. It's funny that Wizards really looks at price point in reprinting in these low-end box sets. High-end box sets, yeah, this is a very easy card to put in commander sets in the future. It's a very easy card to put in, probably not like From the Vaults or like Masterpiece Edition type stuff, but it can easily be put in these Plane Chase type decks, those ones. So its reprintability factor is, I would say, a little above average for reprintability. So that puts in a factor, are we ever going to be able to get the money back before this is inevitably reprinted? So I don't know. Actually, I would put that about a neutral. Same thing with Ulamog. It's got about the exact same factor there. Uniqueness and niche, I would say that it actually does, because it does have both the +1/+1 counters factor to it and the ally factor to it. So it does have a positive uniqueness / niche factor to it. It's going to be hard to... there could be, if all the stars do align, I could see this card seeing more play than it does in Modern and Commander. Now let's look at the price analysis. It's currently at $4.25. Now I did an overall analysis of this card back during Battle for Zendikar when I said everyone was out of their minds when they thought this card actually got a lot of very positive reviews from the pros. A lot of people thought that this was just going to be a Brimaz in the format, just a 3-drop that is just going to, oh yes, we're going to put it in. It's going to just, it's great. It's got all the stats we want. It gets bigger over time. And it's a vampire. It works with that. It's an ally. It works with the themes out of allies. It works out of the themes out of vampires from the Eldritch Moon and the Shadows of Innistrad. And then it got a little bit of a bump when the +1/+1 counters was a very, very big factor in the Kaladesh, especially in Winding Constrictor, was printed. People started throwing it back in that. And it has failed every time people have tried to put it in decks. It has failed because it's just too easy to remove it, and it doesn't get that value immediately. Cards like Rogue Refiner or Gonti just continue to outshine a card like this because you know you're getting value right when you throw it down. But the current price, though, is starting to get outstretched from the demand from the Vampire 2017 Commander deck. So I think that the current price is going to continue to go up. Like, it's just from the demand from Commander, it's going to hit the $5 range. And I think that the target price, that the real market value price, is probably between $5 and $6 for this Mythic. It's going to be very, very tough to find people to sell it to you for where I would consider this to be a good target price, good bargain price between the $2 and $3 range. And that's the only place that I would get into this card because there are just better outlets that have a higher potential growth. The growth rate is already high. This card is already outstretching its demand or outstretching its supply. So if you put all those factors together, the Rogue Market rating for this would probably be a C+. I don't think this is the time to invest, even that it's rotating. It's got really no pressure. The casual players are going to keep a hold of it because it's an ally, it's a vampire, it's gone in those decks, it's gone into plenty of commander decks. I don't see it going down anymore. And so there's not a lot of investable opportunity because I also think that once it hits its market value between $5 and $5.50, it's going to stay stagnant there for quite a while. I could be proven wrong because the vampire decks are becoming more and more popular, and I do think that it's a popular deck in that particular commander deck. And yeah, it's got some room to grow, but still, it's C+, B-. Yeah, that's probably where I would put the Drana Liberator of Malachor. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. That's kind of where we're at with this Rogue Market. I'll try to be quicker on upcoming videos and a little more snazzy on the editing. I've just, of course, put bits and pieces here in to show you how the videos will look. And let me know in the comment sections what you like, dislike about this format. I mean, there will be other videos like this that won't have these particular variables, but they'll always be pertinent to the discussion that we're going to talk about. So in the future, that is going to be my plan. We're going to do Market Monday, which is going to talk about a specific topic, whether it be commander specs, whether it be rotation specs, whether it be a new set, what we can, cards that could see play in the new set. That's probably going to be a very rambly, unedited point and shoot video for Monday. And then maybe Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, somewhere around there, I'm going to try to do a Rogue Market video until possibly a sponsorship picks it up. I've been in talks with a very, very big market finance site for the specifically Magic Gathering. Haven't heard back from them in a while, but I think it's more on my part. August has been a very rough month for me, and we were talking back and forth in the email, but yeah, I need to recontact them and see if this is something they potentially want to sponsor. However, if not, we will completely put it in-house here at Rogue Deck Builder. Still have some good ideas. I know I talk about this every few months, but I really do want to reboot the whole Rogue Deck Builder brand. Again, like I said, this summer was insanely rough for me. It's just a lot of things just came up all at the same time, and it just really killed my drive. But I'm not coaching swim team this year, so there's a lot of free time that I now have in the fall and in the winter, which was just completely siphoned away from coaching swim team. I mean, that was like a full-time job in the how much hours it actually you had to dedicate per week. So anyway, we'll have a lot to focus on the Rogue Deck Builder brand. I'm going to try to bring in writers and authors and things like that. We're going to try to get the e-commerce part of it going, and really be a more than just like my site. I really want to turn it into a brand. So anyway, thanks for everyone that's kind of stuck with me through the hard times. Again, I'm gonna try to up my productive quality, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Comments are very appreciated in the comment section below. This has been Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com. Thanks for watching.